How's everything going?
Everything is great. Yeah, I'm moving to LA very soon, so I have some questions about that. And gonna do a stay in Sedona a little bit, so I have some questions about that. And yeah,
Okay, perfect,
yeah,
perfect. Well, cool. Well, I'll get into the chants and we'll let the guides come through. It'll likely be Riok, but if it's another guide, it will announce itself and introduce itself to you.
cool. Very excited.
Awesome, awesome. Well, enjoy. This is on airplane.
Do you want to do just audio or is video okay?
Video's fine. Yeah, I don't mind with
Okay.
that at all.
Okay, cool. The connection seems to be fine on your end these days.
It has. I don't know what was going on, but yeah, it's been completely balanced. I've had it cut
Okay.
out maybe like one time for 10 seconds in like the
Okay.
last like 5, 6, 7 sessions probably.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Great.
All right, we thank you for coming to interact with us this day of your time. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you this day of your time?
We are ecstatic and excited to be able to continue our conversation in this unique format together.
Me as well. Me as well. Is this Riok that I'm speaking to?
Yes, you would understand me to be the being you refer to as Riok.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Well, I have a lot of questions for you today. I'm excited for our dialogue. I'll start by inviting you to do a scan of my energies and vibrations, thoughts, and beliefs so as to have a most effective session.
Oh,
And I also invite you during the session to continue to scan and go as deeply as you liked into my field as much as my higher self allow for the most effective session.
all right. Well, we thank you for this allowing, understanding that we always, in that way, work with your higher self prior to going into the session. So we are always going in as deep as we can go. However, when you articulate and express that you wish for us to go the next step with you, we will always match that. So we thank you for that invitation. It will allow for this session to have greater levels of clarity and information for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Also, during the session, I will sometimes string together a number of statements or questions, and I simply ask that you answer in a way that most excites you and seems most relevant to the service of the highest good.
Of course, yes, this is how I operate.
Wonderful, beautiful. So my first question is in general about my personal chakras and kind of overall health. I was wondering if you can give me an updated reading on my chakras and general overall energetic health.
All right, as I am scanning into you, I am still detecting a area that could use some attention. That would be, again, the digestive system.
Hmm.
Have you made changes to your diet or to digestive health that you feel has recently improved your digestive functioning?
I feel like that, yes. So I've been eating a lot of chia seed pudding. That was one of your recommendations last time.
Huh?
And I've been very active about having that be in my diet, consuming more leaves, green leaves, as part of my kind of NutriBlast regimen.
Yeah.
In that, well, specifically today, I feel something in my gut that hasn't been there recently, and I don't know if it's something I ate just last night or sort of an energetic buildup.
Yes, I am detecting that it is related to emotions largely. And
Mm,
it is through emotional detoxification of the intestines and of the chakra you call the second chakra that can allow for that sensation to be alleviated. Remember that even when you change your diet, there are still aspects to your process of transformation that transcend just that of physical alterations to your health and your body. Now, when you make those changes to your health and your body that are more physical in nature, it allows for that area to begin to function in a more balanced and amplified way so that the next level of detoxification, which would be the emotional level of detoxification, can then be accessed in a more smooth manner. Because if you try to detoxify the emotions without cleaning up the physicality, it can be a little bit more challenging.
mm, hmm Do you have any techniques or meditations or practices at this time to clear up the emotional blockages in the second chakra for me?
Yes, understanding that submerging yourself in water, natural bodies of water, can be very, very, very beneficial. It can allow for you to breathe in to the navel and into the second chakra, the idea of the energetics of that environment, which allow for a recalibration of your own inner energetics of that intestinal area to then be balanced based on the energetics of the environment. So it can allow for the natural water element to calibrate your vibrations in that particular area. Understanding that what I am detecting within you in relationship to the intestines and the water element also is related to sexual health.
Mm,
Do you
hmm
find that there are any areas within that theme of your life that you are transforming?
Absolutely. So this was one of my questions, so I'll just jump to this right now. So sexual energy is absolutely a big theme I've been exploring this life, and I've been noticing that I've been developing habits with regards to sex and masturbation that might not be serving anymore. I was wondering if you could impart any permission slips that I could use or techniques to separate the difference from habit and addiction energy that I notice with the sexual energy versus a more aligned holistic sexual energy.
All right, we are going to break this down with you.
Hmm
Remember that the only reason a person gravitates to something they believe to be a habit or a vice or an addiction or an impulse is because on some level they have a belief that that thing serves them positively, even though they may have other beliefs and knowingnesses that it is not 100% positive in terms of how they're using it. Remember,
hmm
it's fundamentally neutral, but you can use it for positive or negative reasons. So chances are there are belief systems within you that are viewing that thing, that subject, in a way that's not actually aligned with how you are using it.
hmm
So it is a belief system that has been created to essentially fill a void, you could say. And the
Mm-hmm.
idea is the belief system encourages that type of action because the belief system says when I engage my body or my energy in this way, it will fill me up. It
Mm-hmm.
will complete me. And the idea is when you can redefine what those energies and activities are, then the gravitational pull of them will begin to dissipate because you'll be able to be using them in a way that is in alignment with you. The idea is create that definition that is in alignment with you in relationship to those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Can
remember to imagine just really what you prefer. How would you prefer those things to be? In your idealized, most preferred reality, what are those things to you?
mm. So that energy when I feel it in the past, it seems that it's had kind of control over me, and that energy will pop up, and that I'll have one kind of voice from my body saying to engage in the activity, and another voice that says not to. And then oftentimes in the past, it's been transforming rapidly more recently, but in the past, I'll consciously ignore that voice that says not to engage in that, and instead participate in what it seems like the body is asking for from a more habit-based perspective.
Yes, well, remember, the body is like an animal. It can be trained. It recognizes patterns. That's why patterns in your reality are so vital for physical well-being in terms of how many of you create your health. The idea of regular eater, regular sleeping, all of these things are pattern recognition programs for the body consciousness. Behaviors become those types of patterns, and the body becomes used to it. You're training the body. Now, when you train the body to do something else, it doesn't have to be a hard process. It can actually be very easy. And again, the way to allow for that to be easy is to believe that it can be easy and to define these processes. What we recommend generally is that you grab a piece of paper and write down all of the subjects that represent the themes you're exploring in your life. It could be your body, it could be your sexuality, it could be masturbation, whatever it is for you. Literally write down on the left side of the page, for example, all of those themes, and then on the right side of those themes, on the more central and right side of the page, write down new definitions, as if you are building a dictionary for yourself. And there's no built-in meaning. You get to create it. This is what your ancient texts that you refer to as the Book of Genesis were actually referring to when Adam was given the ability to name everything in the reality. The idea was it was the energies of source that sparked that level of sentience, you could say, within life that allowed for the experience of human to then be in a co-creative position where it began to be able to then use belief systems to define and create reality. So that book is actually referring to an ability you all have now, but many of you have forgotten. What you consider then to be the fall, forgetting that you create the reality.
I like that. That's beautiful. Okay, so is that the first practice that you would recommend, or permission slip?
Absolutely. I would absolutely encourage this, because when you allow for your beliefs and definitions, which are largely the same thing, to become reinvented in a way that you prefer, then when you go to take the action steps, it will be that much easier, because you're not working against belief systems that are guiding your energy in another direction.
I understand. Beautiful. Thank you for that.
What you may find is, as you begin to write down the themes or subjects, you may find that the old definition will instantaneously pop into your mind. As it pops into your mind, it's already been released. You understand?
As in that's the process of bringing it to consciousness, which allows it to take away its power from me?
Correct. Yes. The idea is that once you have brought the unconscious belief to the conscious mind, it's instantaneously released, because you're bringing it from a different dimension of your being that you call the unconscious to your conscious mind. You're setting it free. When it's stored in the unconscious, it's like you're keeping it in a nice little box. But as soon as it's brought to the conscious mind, it's instantly transformed.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Are there any other areas overall in the health of chakras besides that second chakra area that could use attention and healing at this point?
Yes. One area I am also detecting is the throat chakra.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Well, remember, these chakras are very interconnected, because what you call your sexual energy is, when you boil it down to its most simplistic function, it's creative energy. The throat in that way symbolically represents the ability to express creative energy freely in your reality. So when there are issues in one, oftentimes there will be issues in the other. It's part of how you design your systems, largely, for convenience. Now, with that being said, are there areas in your life where you feel you are repressing your ability to fully express yourself? Where you will express yourself a great deal in certain areas, but then some areas you say, oh, I can't do it there, not all the way, not yet.
I mean, that's certainly my relationships with females seem to be the main area where that comes out.
All right. Now, what do you believe to be true about females where you are not able to express yourself fully in front of them or around them?
the belief comes from, or the idea comes from, a belief in always needing to be there to support and to please at the expense of what I want.
All right. Now, do you feel that that's something you need to continue to carry?
I don't, and that has been a big theme over these past year, 6 months or so. That's definitely been transforming,
Oh,
slowly, but still transforming. Yes.
yes. Well, remember that the relationship with one another is always an equal co-creative relationship, even if it's being expressed in a way that doesn't look equal and doesn't look balanced. It actually, on a fundamental level, has to be equal in order for there to even be a co-creation. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea is you can co-create an experience where it does not appear to be equal.
Mm-hmm.
So begin to recognize the relationships are already balanced. When you can begin to understand that your relationship with them is already balanced, it allows for you to tune into that natural balance that's already there that allows for the relationship to exist in the first place as an option for experience.
Mm-hmm.
And once you begin to tap into that natural balance, go into the feeling of being balanced.
Mm-hmm.
What does it feel like to be in a state of perfect natural balance that doesn't need to be forced? It just simply is as a byproduct of existence. And as you feel into that natural balance, begin to imagine that that natural balance is fueling your voice. It's fueling your energy. It's fueling your thoughts. Start to convince yourself by stepping into that vibration that that inner balance is actually the vibration of your life force that's fueling every process within you.
Mm-hmm.
And what this is going to allow for you to do, it will allow for you to tap into the energies of balance that are already there, but to then embody them in a more conscious way. Because even when you're experiencing yourself as not being imbalanced, paradoxically, you're in a state of balance to be able to even create that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you begin to tune into the vibration of balance and begin to imagine your life force is in resonance with that, begin to then speak, think, and act from that vibration, from that place.
Mm-hmm.
When you make your new definitions, yes,
Mm-hmm.
allow for yourself to imagine the vibration of being balanced. And define balance as something that is natural to you. It's something
Mm-hmm.
you are always experiencing, and you can never not be in a state of balance. Not really.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, you are very welcome.
Can you give me an average reading of my frequency over the last 2 months or so? And also, what are the extreme ranges during this time?
There have been a great deal of fluctuations.
Mm.
You have ascended past the 144,000 cycles per second, and you have also been below it
Mm-hmm.
at times. Remember that your frequency does not necessarily make you into a god or a demon, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's never a judgment. It's never a value thing. It's never a worth thing. It is simply a reflection of your process, which is inherently perfect. So remember, no matter what you're vibrating at, as long as you are being true to yourself throughout the fluctuations in vibrations, you are always moving in a fundamentally positive direction. So
Mm-hmm.
even if the vibration goes way up so you can see more of yourself, experience more of your infinite nature, and then it goes way down so you can integrate that and apply that, it is all used for your benefit if you choose to use it for your benefit.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Um, I'm going to be moving. There are a lot of big transitions in my life, and coming up very soon within the next few weeks, I'm going to be transitioning to move to the area known as Los Angeles.
No,
My first question with this is, so this area is known for its air pollution. Can you recommend anything specific or any permission slips to mitigate the effects on my body?
yes, understand that there are mushrooms known as cordyceps mushrooms
Okay.
that are very rejuvenating for the lungs. They have
Mm,
very powerful targeted effects for the lung tissue and the airways. As I'm scanning in, there is another substance known as NAC. This can be a very powerful detoxification substance that can be utilized cyclically.
mm,
This also targets the lungs as well as the liver for being able to purge out different toxins that exist within your body that range from metals, that range from plastics,
Hmm.
and so on.
Can you say the name of the mushroom again?
It is known as cordyceps mushroom.
Cordyceps mushrooms. And would you recommend incorporating that as part of the diet or more as like a detox program?
Because of the nature of this mushroom, it would be a little challenging to utilize it as a whole food. It is normally sold within your country as a supplement
Okay.
because of the delicate nature of how the mushroom grows.
Okay. So would you recommend taking that intermittently or daily?
It can be utilized daily, but the idea is to allow for your body to rest from all supplements in that way, so homeostasis in that original blueprint way can then be accessed by your body consciousness.
Interesting. Okay. That's an interesting offshoot. So I want to ask about. So I often take a lot of vitamins and supplements just on a day-to-day basis. Would you recommend periods of time of not doing that, so as you can say, to return to stasis?
Yes, of course. To return
Interesting.
to your foundational level. Yes, it's very important for you. That's why your ancient traditions heavily emphasized fasting as its own medicine, as its own miracle
Hmm.
drug, because it allows for the
Hmm.
body to go back into a state of being that is in resonance with its original design blueprint. That is why when you fast, you activate your stem cells. You're literally returning the body back to its original design.
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I've been involved in fasting in the last year, both intermittently and on more prolonged periods of exceeding, 24, 36 hours, things like that.
Yes.
I'll come back to that in a moment. Um, another question on Los Angeles. So there have been a lot of fires recently, and especially upticking actually just today. There've been an increase. It seems to be opening up from one perspective a lot of new space and energy. Do you have any comments at this time on
Yes,
this?
in many ways, it's reflecting the collective consciousness of that area. It
Hmm.
is, in many ways, the idea of that area transforming itself. That's why the fires occur. The fires represent the idea of transformation and which you consider to be sacrifice, but not in the way many of you define it. The idea of sacrifice as we define it is letting something go that no longer serves you, so something more in resonance with your heart can then be manifested into your reality.
Hmm.
So to reinforce what you're saying, yes, it does in many ways reflect that idea of making more space psychically in the area and physically as well too, as it does have the ability to clear out natural areas as well. But the idea is it is in many ways reflecting the emotional and spiritual collective consciousness of the area. It is going through a detoxification process,
Hmm.
and this detoxification process is very spicy, so to say, and
Hmm.
it is very high vibrational in that way. You consider fire out of all of the elements to be one of the more high vibrational versions of the elements. And
Hmm.
it's using its alchemical abilities to assist the collective consciousness in that area in releasing. That is one of the reasons many people are now being drawn to Los Angeles and
Hmm.
to that surrounding area because older, denser energies are being released, and it's now allowing for newer energies that are in resonance with many of the newcomers' vibrations to be birthed into that area.
Yeah, it's crazy. Of just people that I know in Chicago, specifically musicians and artists, there's almost a new person every day that I find out is moving there in this time span. It's this beautiful synchronicity that I've been noticing.
Yes, and you're not alone in that, as you already know. The
Hmm.
channel himself is even considering moving there at a certain point in time when it becomes more in resonance with his belief system.
Hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. So on my way to Los Angeles, I'll be driving, and I'm planning on spending a few nights in Sedona on my trip. I have 3 nights and 2 days planned. So the first day I have planned to do a fast, probably at least a 24-hour, maybe even a 36, kind of going into that day. And the second day, the plan would be to kind of follow your suggestion on ending a fast by eating light fruits such as apples and things like that. Do you have any comments on that? And also, are there any meditations or practices you can suggest when I'm in Sedona for this time?
All right. Well, we can suggest a variety of meditations. There are meditations we could reveal to you that relate to nourishing the body, whilst you are in the fasted state. There are other meditations that we can suggest that will allow for you to deeply connect to the indigenous energies of that land. Because that land is highly active, which you consider to be Sedona has multiple gateways and vortices that have portal potentialities associated with them, where beings from different times, you could say, which really are different parallel realities, are able to access that area. So you have a great deal of indigenous energies there, what you consider to be Native American energies. You also have the energies there of ancient animal species. The idea is there are certain animal species that are no longer on your surface, but are still accessing your surface through those portals within the area. So it can allow for you to tap in to a very powerful aspect of animal collective consciousness that is unique to that area. And it can allow for you to draw upon those teachings from those more ancient animal consciousnesses in the way that you would understand to receive teachings from a spirit guide. It'd be the same type of process. It would be the animal spirits, the animal guides teaching you and guiding you.
I had a dream.
Yes, please continue.
I had a dream that I was with some animals last night, and we were kind of guiding each other. It was some kind of larger cat.
That's exactly species. What we were about to suggest to you. Yes, these are ancient feline energies that are native to that area.
Can you expand on that anymore?
They were predatory in their existence, but in terms of how the ancient peoples worked with them, it allowed for them to understand the abilities of feline consciousness to be incredibly loving to other beings, to be incredibly loving to themselves, and at the same time fierce, able to go after whatever they want, able to move in whatever direction they want to, not fearing anything about their direction. And you experience this when you observe the feline consciousness being stealthy. It will go into jungle regions, it will go into very challenging landscapes, and while it is there, it is totally cool, like a cat. It is moving slowly. It is not fearing being prey. It is not fearing anything interfering with its process. And it simply moves as an extension of the land. It moves as an extension of the earth in those moments. And that represents your natural flow state. When you move as a natural extension of your planet by being in resonance with your planet, you automatically know you have nothing to fear, because you really only create the sensation of fear when you create the idea of there being an other. Because an other in many ways relates to the idea of the unknown aspects of yourself that are then projected onto the other, that are typically negative in how we are describing this function. So the idea is, when you move as an extension of Earth, you cease to experience other people as other. You see them as Earth. You see them as the same. You see them as the same life force that you are. And that is what the felines are tapping into when they are stalking, when they are moving. They are moving as a direct extension of the Earth, and they are seeing everything in their reality as them. Very powerful. And this is what the ancients were able to download in terms of wisdom teachings from these ancient felines. The idea is you are the earth, and when you really embody that teaching, you enter into non-duality. And it can allow for you to stalk your prey, which in this metaphor is your goal, or whatever the reality is you wish to manifest. It allows for you to stalk that, to follow that, and to then pounce on that, and to consume it, representing the idea of embodying it fully.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's very cool. Can you offer, so I'll take what you just said and be able to meditate on those energies when I'm in Sedona. Yes. Can you recommend some meditations for while specifically I'm in Sedona for the fasting process?
All right. Yes. The idea is that when you are engaging in fasting, your body begins to draw upon waste within itself, and it alchemically uses it as nutrients It transforms waste into actual raw materials that it then uses to build itself up. So one of the things you can do to accelerate this process is the idea of breath work, is the idea of deep, powerful breathing. There are many yogic ways to breathe that can be very beneficial for this that you can utilize. There are other breath work techniques you can utilize that are much more gentle, if that's what you feel inspired to do, that relates to the idea of simply deep breathing. And as you are breathing, imagine you are taking energy in, taking your breath in through different centers of your body, such as your third eye, your hands, your feet, your crown. And the idea is, as you breathe in, imagine you're drawing in the breath through these areas. And you can spend very deep states of meditation doing this. You can go into very profound altered states of consciousness through this activity. But the idea is to breathe in through the hands, breathe in through the fingertips, breathe in through the crown. And what you'll be doing is you'll be drawing in these subtle energies that are all around you.
That's beautiful.
The idea is, too, that there are certain colors that will also support you in connecting to the earth, but also in nourishing your system. And the idea is the color yellow, for many of you, is very balancing, it's very grounding, and it represents the idea of energy, as well as the idea of earth. So the idea is, when you are doing these meditative practices, imagine you're consuming the color yellow as if it were actual food. And imagine that you can feel your stomach and your intestines processing the vibration of that color. Imagine you're literally digesting the color yellow. This will ground you. It will allow for you to more deeply connect to the land. And it will also act as a form of nourishment for you.
Can you talk about, I'm very interested in all that, and also can you talk about any yogic breathing techniques that will be helpful in Sedona?
Are you familiar with breath of fire?
A little bit, but I would love to hear your explanation.
This is a breathing technique that has rapid inhales and exhales. The only emphasis you place consciously on that technique in terms of the breath is the exhale. And the idea is to allow for the inhale to become an automatic process. And it is done very quickly. It is done very rapidly. It is done typically for about 20 to 30 seconds at a time. And the idea is there are certain holds that you can do if you are trained to do the holds, so you do them accurately and in a way that's balanced for your body. But in general, you can simply do the 30 seconds of breath of fire and then sit and just breathe deeply in that altered state of consciousness. And you can then cycle that. You could do 30 seconds of the breath of fire and then 5 minutes of meditation. 30 seconds of the breath of fire, 5 minutes of meditation. You can use your imagination to guide you in this process, but that particular technique is very nourishing, and it allows for your consciousness to very greatly expand. It allows for your detoxification processes to increase, and it can allow for you to draw upon the psychic energies, and it can help you go longer without needing to consume physical materials as nourishment. Are you able to hear us? One moment. One moment, please.
I lost you there.
All right. You are able to hear us now?
Yes, I am.
All right. The idea is the breath of fire done in different sequences, such as 30 seconds of that technique with a restful period of meditation, and then another re-engaging of that technique for as long as you wish or feel good about doing, feel comfortable doing, can allow for you to access the full power of that technology.
Okay, beautiful. How is that similar or different from gamma breathing?
Gamma breath largely is much slower in nature, but it oxygenates the system in a similar way, in that it allows for very accelerated amounts of oxygen to enter into the body. We will demonstrate, channel the breath of fire, so you can understand visually what this looks like. It is done through the nose, and it is very quick, and it goes like this.
Okay.
And the idea is there are certain breath holds that can be done after that technique that allow for you to really process and digest the energies. These would be something that it is best to have a teacher in order to learn effectively, but it involves sucking in the abdominal wall after you have made the last exhale and holding your breath while the abdominal wall is sucked in for about 5 to 10 seconds. And then once you have allowed for that period of time to pass, an inhale is then generated that fills the lungs, and the chin is tucked, the perineum, and then the breath is held with an in-breath for as long as is comfortable. These require a little bit of practice and generally are suggested that you have a teacher in order to learn. However, these are ways you can expand that process of the breath of fire.
Are you familiar with the person known as Wim Hof and his breathing techniques?
Yes, we are familiar with this individual.
Is the techniques that he teaches seem to line up with some of these? Are his techniques for that he teaches more similar to the breath of fire or gamma breath, or something kind of in between?
It is in between, largely. It has effects that are similar to gamma breath in its ability to oxygenate and are similar to breath of fire in its ability to detoxify, but it is its own style altogether. It can be very beneficial for the idea of emotional releases and releasing of subconscious programs through the breath in an automatic transformation process. It allows for many of those energies to simply be released through the nervous system.
Interesting. So there's sometimes when I engage in this breath, and I'm not able to do it every time, but it's kind of this hyperventilating breath that will continue for about a minute or so, and then I will release my air. And then when I do it right, specifically if I do it after a few sequences of that, it feels like my entire body is like massively electrified and kind of vibrating. But I also feel a deep sense of calm with that. Can you explain? Do you have any idea what's going on with that?
Yes, you are activating different aspects of your nervous system, and you are allowing for the body to feel fully oxygenated. Because many of you shallowly breathe throughout your day. When you shallowly breathe throughout your day, it tells your body that something is not right. It tells your body, oh, I'm injured, or oh, I'm dying. So when you fully oxygenate the system, that feeling of calm is your body knowing it's always been safe. So many of you would actually feel that way all the time should you just breathe properly in the way you were designed to breathe.
Interesting.
Idea of the vibration is, again, that stimulation of the nervous system and the opening of the different energy centers that connect to the nervous system. That vibrating is the idea of energy transfers that are taking place on a subtle energy level as well as an electrical level that relate to the idea of releasing psychological programs that are not supportive for you. And it is also stimulating the different neurons in that way and the aspects of the nervous system. It's charging them up so they are able to function much more effectively. And you experience this type of electrical and subtle energy communication as the vibrational sensation.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to know that, make sure that it wasn't unhealthy for my body to be kind of in that very high feeling state.
No, it is not unhealthy. The idea is, again, to pulse it, to do these processes and practices in a way where you're giving your body the opportunity to return to a more homeostatic balance. These processes only really become disruptive when they're done incorrectly or when you do them for too long. and too often. That is when they generally can create certain problems because they begin to move your body's metabolism in a unique direction that's relevant to the direction of that technique. And if you go too far in one direction when your body is asking for something else, then it can create a sensation of not being balanced.
Okay, beautiful, wonderful.
That is why it's always recommended you listen to your body. Your body will be your guide. And to, of course, utilize teachers and to follow all protocols that are recommended for these techniques, doing them in a safe location, doing them in a supportive, stable environment. These are all done so that way certain reality experiences are not created. It allows for you to use the technique in a way that is reflective of its true nature and its design.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Yay.
I have a question on shoulder pain in my body. I seem to have intermittent and sometimes reoccurring pain in kind of the right shoulder area, kind of around the rotator cuff and the back. Are you able to give any insight as to the source of this energy and any insight on treatment?
Yes, the idea is it is related to posture and improper use of the limb. Yes. Have you engaged in corrective exercises that allow for the posture to return to a more proper state and for the limb to also be exercised in a way that is bouncing towards its normal function?
I could probably stand to do more of that. If you have any recommendations, I would love to hear them.
All right. Now, there are gentle exercises that you have on your planet known as Qigong movement or Tai Chi movement. These are very supportive for the joints and can allow for a great deal of healing to take place within them that is different than yoga. Understanding that yoga, while it is very strengthening and balancing, for those who have injured joints can actually be slightly problematic because the amount of force that is generated physically when the techniques are done. The idea is these more gentle techniques that come from Tai Chi, or what you call Qigong, allow for the joint to be exercised and moved in very balanced directions that build strength over time through consistency and postural alignment. And it can allow for yourself to retrain the muscle, retrain the joints, retrain the ligaments to move in a way that is balanced, and for your spine to carry itself in a way that is more beneficial for energy flow throughout your system.
Are you able to sense? I am curious with specifically the shoulder pain. If I continue to do yoga, I'll continue to do weight training, and also one of my main jobs is playing the piano. And I wonder if any of these activities, or if all of them combined, contribute to a state of not being able to let the shoulder heal properly.
Yes, the idea is that a deficiency, you could say, or the creation of the expression of a deficiency in relationship to postural alignment while playing the piano has something to do with it, as I am scanning. So simply being more aware of your body and posturally training yourself whilst you are playing the piano to allow for your body to be in a more upright position, allowing for the shoulders not to slouch forward, because that will also pull on the muscles that support the shoulder in a way that will then create pain once you return back to a more normal posture when you're not playing the piano. So allowing for the posture when playing the piano to be more balanced, supported, and aligned, as well as having the shoulders back a little bit more and dropped, will also be beneficial. In relationship to the yoga, we would recommend simply being more mindful about the poses that really work the shoulders and paying attention to how your shoulder feels when you do them and how your shoulder feels after you do them. So you can be able to deduce if those specific yoga exercises are actually beneficial for what you're experiencing. Going a little bit further, the idea of weight training can be beneficial, but for that shoulder, allow for the weight training to again be done similar to how we've described the movement dynamics of Tai Chi or Qigong to be. Allow for it to be something that builds strength through proper movement over time and consistency. Allow for it to be something gentle that strengthens the shoulder. So that way you're not overworking the shoulder, then draining its healing process more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you sense these energies as primarily being physically based, or is there a deeper root emotionally or belief-wise with this as well?
Well, remember that whenever you have a physical issue, there is always underlying energies to it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it might not have to do directly with a belief about your shoulder being injured, but it may have something to do about a belief about the healing process itself. Because
Mm-hmm.
many of you will create injuries simply so you understand the process of healing
Mm-hmm.
and the recognition of the already healed state, which you arrive at when you complete your self-imposed process of healing. Once you've completed that process, you arrive at the already healed state, and the more you can download and integrate that state, the less experiences of injury and disease or what have you, you will have to create in your reality to assist you in learning and integrating that. Once you've downloaded the already healed state and you know what it feels like, it will actually allow for you to attract in synchronicities that can assist you in the complete regeneration of those anatomical regions. By
Mm-hmm.
being in that state of being, whatever needs to come in for your process to reflect the already healed state will then come in.
Mm-hmm. So to expand on that, another question I had was about the common cold and things that I could do to mitigate getting the common cold or reducing its symptoms. And I'm guessing these are related to my process of creating a disease or a not healed state. Can you expand on that at all?
Yes, well, the idea is when many of you create the common cold, it relates to the idea of needing to slow down,
Hmm.
needing to rest. It oftentimes has to do with the idea of taking on too many activities and things that actually aren't yours,
Hmm.
making choices that aren't actually aligned with your true nature. And that's what you experience as the idea of an external pathogen slowing you down.
Hmm.
Do you see the parallel here?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
that is why many of you manifest in those experiences, because the idea is you're carrying a lot of baggage. Not all of it is yours. And if it feels like baggage, then you definitely know it's not yours.
Hmm.
And you then are attempting to do it all.
Hmm.
So the common cold will oftentimes come in to say, hey, look, you're carrying things that aren't yours, and it's creating a situation where you feel as if you're doing too much.
Hmm.
So put some of these things down. Take some time to understand your true nature by going into balance, by going into relaxation, so you can then understand what really is yours, what really is true for you. So then as you navigate your reality, you'll do it in a way that has that recognition of what is true for you already built into it.
Hmm. That's great. Once do you have any permission slips for mitigating the symptoms once I am in the state of the cold?
All right. What you understand to be vitamin C in a very naturalistic form can be very beneficial for mitigating this, as well as the idea of fasting. When
Okay.
you experience that you are going through a external infection manifestation, the idea is to allow for yourself to go into a state of lightness so your energies can, again, just as we've described with the process of fasting, can return to that homeostatic state. And in that process of returning to homeostasis, all energies that are not in resonance with that homeostatic state cannot stay. So
Mm-hmm.
if that pathogen is not in resonance with the homeostatic state, it becomes incompatible as you begin to return to it through letting go of food. You oftentimes will experience this as the sensation of freeing up energy to then have an immune response against the pathogen. But in reality, what's happening is you're shifting away from the reality where you were sick in the first place by shifting to the reality where you are in total resonance with your original design.
Mm-hmm.
So fasting can be very beneficial. Warming tea, largely ginger tea, if it is a cold in that way and you're having cold symptoms. Ginger tea with spices can also be very beneficial as it creates a natural counterbalance to that external energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, the cold can only come in when you have burned up too much of your inner fire. You've depleted it. So the
Mm,
spices remind you of being a fire so you can manifest the experience of having more of it. And that then acts again as a homeostatic balancing agent. So you then shift away from the pathogen altogether.
mm. Beautiful, beautiful. So we have about 10 minutes left. I have uh, two different threads of questions. One about hybrid children as it relates to me and my experiences. And I also have some questions about your life and your experiences.
Oh,
And I'm curious if one of these subjects more than the other is drawing you at this moment.
we would love to talk about hybrid children, but remember, follow your passion. We co-create this with you and we inspire you to make your choices based off what is most exciting, most relevant for you.
Beautiful. So let's talk about some hybrid children then.
Oh,
So my connection with the hybrid children seems to be growing over time. It often seems in a day-to-day sense that I am kind of practicing teaching lessons to my children in my mind on a daily basis. And perhaps this is already telepathically imparting lessons to my hybrid children. Can you speak on that at all?
yes, you are actually having memories that are emerging as thoughts.
Interesting.
These are dream memories and memories you have of certain astral adventures that you go on, and you're experiencing them as ideas in the moment. Because when you dream, these energies are stored within your system, and then after a certain amount of time passes, your system opens them up and they begin to flood the conscious mind as thoughts, as feelings, as inspirations, as fantasies. Largely, many of the ideas you experience yourselves having are actually reflective of experiences you have had in other dimensions.
Interesting. Interesting. So recently I feel like I was greeted by two of these hybrid children that seem to be mine, and I seem to receive the names of Samantha and Oliver. Can you comment on that at all?
Yes, you are experiencing names that they are sharing with you so you can crystallize your connection to them.
Hmm, beautiful. Do hybrid children kind of in general experience an idea of time and aging like humans on Earth do?
It is very different. It
Can
is
you
very
expand on that?
Yes, many of you experience yourselves as becoming an adult over
Hmm,
time because of certain collective beliefs you have subscribed to. The hybrid children have no interest in becoming an adult.
interesting.
They simply wish to become a bigger and more enlightened child.
Interesting.
Result, because they are always in that vibration of their internal youth, even as they grow older, they appear to be incredibly young. The same is true for the Yael. Many of them, even in their older age, still look incredibly young because they have learned how to nurture their inner child and align that inner child energy with the higher self. So they become an enlightened child. That is why you actually have in many of your sci-fi stories the idea of children that are very enlightened and very psychic. It's your collective consciousness's way of projecting that ability of enlightening the inner child, which is the idea of being in your true state, being in the state of joy, being in the state of youth, and following your passion, following your excitement, following your authenticity. That's why
Mm,
it's a common theme in many of your science fiction stories. The
mm,
hybrid
hmm
children are, in many ways, the actual embodiment of that energy.
mm. So do hybrid children go through puberty?
They do, yes. They do have a period of puberty. Yes.
Interesting. I had a follow-up question was, does it happen at the same time as Earth humans?
It
But you
is
as
slightly different. It happens a little bit later than it happens for many of the Earth humans.
okay. So if I interesting. So if I received the Samantha and Oliver talked about their ages being around 8 and 9, my understanding of that from a human perspective would be much different than their understanding of that.
Yes, yes. From
So
their point of view of being 8 and 9, they contain the wisdom of someone you would consider to be 50.
interesting.
Yes, they are very wise. But someone who has become the age of 50 and has remained in a loving state.
Interesting. Okay. So their experience as children is much different than human children,
Yes,
obviously.
yes. However, that does not make them serious. They are incredibly playful. They are incredibly loving, but they contain the wisdom that it normally requires the experience of time for many individuals on your world to embody.
Interesting. Very interesting. I will ask if there are any messages from any of my hybrid children at this time.
One moment. One moment. We are going to let them come through. One moment.
Mm.
Daddy.
Hello, hello.
Hello. We love you.
I love you as well.
Thank you for playing with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We love it so much. We love the games. We love the games we co-create together. Let's keep playing.
I love that. I have a vivid memory of recently dancing for you and then taking you on trips on roller coasters and bringing a tree up to your ship. Were these things very fun for you?
They were really fun. And we're going to have more and more and more. And you might notice we'll play games with you while you're awake here.
Mm. Is there anything I can look out for specifically?
Pay attention to the way you feel when you start to feel silly.
Okay.
When you start to feel silly, that's when you're tuned into us.
Okay.
So keep feeling silly, because remember, this is just a game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you call the cosmic joke.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizing this is all a play. So continue to play. Let's be silly together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I look forward to it.
And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that interaction. That was incredibly delightful to experience.
Of course. Of course. Thank you. So, so a few quick questions about your life, Riok. I'm curious if you. I'm going to just list off some things, and feel free to address as you see fit. Do you experience a concept of day and night? Do you experience a concept of sleep and waking hours? Do you
I
have
do not sleep. I will experience day and night depending on the world I visit.
Mm. Oh, interesting. Do you have on Earth, we have entertainment in the form of movies and TV shows, these narrative-driven stories and experiences. Do you have a similar thing in your experiences?
Not really. There is a joke that is running amongst extraterrestrial communities where we say we just watch the humans.
I imagine, and that also we're creating those stories to kind of experience what you're experiencing. It's this fractal.
Yes, the idea is many of the stories you create are done to help you look at certain situations you have either been through or you are moving through in a different point of view. So you can experience yourself as having stepped outside of them so you can integrate your own energies in relationship to the themes of those stories.
Mm.
That's why you tell stories, so you can step outside of those themes in your own life and observe them from an externalized perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most stories on Earth are about conflict and war and violence. And I imagine from a higher perspective and from a higher vibrational point, um, experiencing things like that is more from that disconnected state or watching people experience that. Because I'm always wondering about what media will be like on Earth in 50 to 100 years. Can you comment on that at all?
It will likely be more aligned with the idea of quantum mechanics, the idea of extraterrestrial contact, the idea of past lives, and the idea of space travel, because you have transformed so many of the denser energies of your past where your media is no longer going to reflect it because it has done its job of acting as a mirror for the energies within your collective consciousness. Now that your collective consciousness has shifted so dramatically, your media will begin to create new themes, new stories that are representative of the new timelines you're moving into.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. It has been our pleasure, joy, and excitement to have this interaction with you this day of your time. Our unconditional love to you always.
And to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, beautiful.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you so much.
Oh man, that was fun, dude. That was so fun. I love the cat part when you were like, "I'm having dreams of cats," and then I was like, "He was literally about to say that shit." I was like, "That's so funny, man. It's so
Yeah,
cool."
that's awesome. That's very cool. That's very
Yeah,
cool. So for you, business must be booming in terms of
it's
like the
good, man.
channeling stuff.
Yeah, it's really good. I like have so many sessions like all the time. Like I originally had 4 today, but now I have 3 because my 8 o'clock had something come up, I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, it's like a full-time gig. I just like wake up, do like meditations, and then I just like trance channel for like 4 hours.
That's
It's
awesome, man.
yeah, I love it, man. It's really good. And then I get to like integrate and download these things and like
Yeah.
they're fun, man. Like they'll give teachings and there'll be things that I remember and it's like if I don't integrate them, the whole thing comes to a halt. And they're like, "Well, dude, we just gave you tools that weren't just for the client, it's for you." So
Yeah.
make sure you use these because the more you use tools that are in alignment with us, speaking as them, the more you're
Hmm.
accessing our energy, the further you can
Hmm.
go with it. So it always encourages self-growth and transformation.
That's awesome. Congrats. That's super cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
I wish you the best of luck in continuing all this, and I look forward to continuing future sessions as well because this is very cool and very informative and beautiful.
Oh, of course, my pleasure, Bill. Well, listen,
Yeah,
have a great day. And by the way, too, I'm gonna start
you
saying
too.
this to everybody because I think I'm supposed to. Nothing Riok says is medical advice. Talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, and listen to your body wisdom. So I'm just gonna start throwing that out there because they give so many health readings where I'm like, I
Yeah,
feel like I should say that because they don't
yeah,
really like saying it because they don't like care. They're like, well, I mean, that's just what we
yeah.
see, and I'm just like, okay,
Right.
but yeah. So anyway, thought
Right.
I'd share that on my end.
Cool, cool. What's your criteria for posting stuff on your YouTube channel?
Mainly the only criteria I have is that the client is okay with it. If the client's
Okay.
okay with it, I love posting them because it's great stuff. It gives people a taste of what the sessions are like. So I really
Yeah.
enjoy that when it's allowed.
Cool. Well, I absolutely give you my permission to use this on your website if you wish.
Oh, Bill, thank you, man. This was a really good session. I thank
Cool.
you so
Cool.
much for your generosity.
Yeah, of course. I thank you as well because I watch everything that you do and it's it's part of my like weekly teachings and it's come to be a cool thing to come back to every week and to hear what you have to say. So please keep it up and feel free to use this session if you'd like.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, I will. I definitely will. I thought it was a really good one, so I'll make sure
Cool.
to use it. Phil, oh, much
Cool.
love to you, man. Thank you so
You
much.
as well, Tyler.
Awesome. Happy travels.
Thank you
Enjoy
so much.
the new world.
Will do. You too.
Awesome. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.